My deep appreciation of theater history was instilled in me by Tom Empey, a college mentor to me and hundreds of others. While teaching Greek theater terms, he would grab the fabric of his slacks and say, "You see these pants? Euripides Eumenides," making light of content that could be considered rather dry and stuffy while still maintaining respect for the art, which is what I want to do with this podcast. For each episode, I invite a guest from the many paths my theater career has taken me down. I give my guest no idea what we'll be talking about, but they know we're going to find an outrageous story about theater history and perhaps get a better understanding about why we're still doing it after all these years. So welcome to Euripides Eumenides, and I am your host, Aaron Odom.
Apocalypse, apocalypse, I said, why you wanna show up now? Just when the heart of my life was getting good. I'll give you one more chance. Walk on out of the door, yeah. Get your ass to getting where the getting is good.
Good morrow, Eumenidites! This is your host, Aaron Odom from Trident Theater, bringing you another episode of Euripides Eumenides, a theater history podcast. Here we are, 97. That means 98, 99, 100. Just a few more, and I hit quite the milestone. I know that might not seem like too much in the podcasting world, but it's a big deal to me, and I want to express my sincere gratitude for all of you who have found me over the years. And keep spreading the word. I'm getting a lot of new followers, but as you can imagine, the success of a podcast is based on the growing number of listeners it gets. So please send your favorite episodes out to anyone you can. And remember, they don't have to be a history nerd to like the show, just someone who enjoys weird stories from history, only these ones all just happen to be about theater. Now, all that aside, let's get into this episode. For 97, I bring back my son Ethan, who is quite a theater enthusiast and sometimes participant, as we'll discuss right away. Ethan and I counted, and this is his 5th time on the show, and after we finished recording, he said that this one might have been his favorite. I'll tell you, as a teacher, it is fun to watch the light bulb shine over a student's head during a lesson, and while this isn't exactly a lesson, it still was pretty neat to see someone connect to a piece that is from decades earlier and make it relevant to their own circumstances. And that's not just the hope of a teacher, but a theater artist as well. So, for this episode, I'm bringing back the play spotlight format, in which my guest and I dive deep into a highly influential play to see why it still remains something worthy of being studied and performed. Therefore, I give you episode 97, Play Spotlight, Rhinoceros, by Eugene Ionesco. Ethan.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Man, last time we were on here, you got to sit across from me while I was having a really terrible cold. And again, I just recently had a really terrible cold, but just today, I feel like that really terrible cold just left me. So I might sound like I have a really terrible cold, but in fact, I do not have a really terrible cold.
Well, at least that's okay.
That's gone. Hey, last time you were on here, we talked about Romeo and Juliet. You over that yet? You've witnessed too much in the world of 13-year-old romance that...
It's a whole nother level of sacrilege.
So you're seeing all those kids, from different families who are, mom doesn't approve of this one, dad doesn't approve of that one, and they're going off and running off and getting married and starting wars. No,
basically.
Yeah, okay, every day.
Like, literally, I have seen 3 proposals in the last week.
What?
Of asking for phone numbers.
Oh, phone number. Oh, God.
I didn't actually mean that.
Not, I saved 3 months of allowance. I got a wooden ring. She's the one. Oh, man. But how's that working out? Like, people getting digits? No.
I mean, kind of. But like,
here's my number. It's 911.
One of my friends, like, they don't have a phone, so it's just like, I'm sorry, but I don't have a phone.
But can I have your number? I'll scratch it into the wall. Okay. Well, okay. I brought you on here because you've recently done a lot of fun theater stuff. You're starting to run spotlight for shows here in town. You did one for the kids program, James and the Giant Peach, and then the Mean Girls High School edition.
That one was my favorite.
Yeah. Well, so you still wear pink on Wednesdays.
Yeah, I do.
That's awesome.
And I enforce my laws onto other people.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
I'm creating my own religion.
Are you becoming a mean girl? Are you? Which one, are you the Regina of of your group of friends?
I hope so.
You're not the Karen, at least. That's
No,
good.
no.
So,
Oh god.
okay. Well, I brought you here because it occurs to me that there are so many plays out there that are classic plays that by this point in my life, I should have read. And this gave me a great opportunity to watch a full version of this play. And it was a really, really good one. But it's weird. Are you ready for a weird play?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to right after World War II.
Oh,
Okay.
that
So
pinches
yeah.
the tone entirely.
Absolutely. Yeah. No Romeo and Juliet. No. God, I hope not anymore. So what do you know? What can you tell me about the status of things in World War II or after World War II in Europe?
So like by my understanding, I'm pretty sure most of Europe was pretty wealthy, so it didn't really take much. However, Germany took it all.
Oh man, like I love seeing those old videos. I mean, I hate seeing those old videos of like people with barrelfuls of German marks trying to go to, wheelbarrows full, trying to just buy a loaf of bread because their economy was completely decimated.
Yeah.
But I mean,
They poured everything they had.
yeah,
They got
yeah.
not that far.
Well, what do you think of the status of, let's just say, if Europe was a person, what would be the status of mental health of Europe after World War II?
In the entirety, or
Well, give it your best shot. What do you think?
since there are different sections of the brain,
Yeah. Okay.
I would say that most of them, except for the place where you get the dopamine into your brain,
Okay.
is doing perfect.
Well, okay.
And that dopamine thing is Germany.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you one of the big movements to come out of World War II as a reaction to it. I mean, you can see artistic movements being kind of like reactions to things that are going on in the world around, right?
Yeah.
So just this spring, we saw a great production of Waiting for Godot, right?
Oh.
You like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy weird, right?
Yeah.
Like never really learned where these people were, what time it was. But what was kind of the overall feeling of that play?
Depression.
Depression, maybe some hopelessness, maybe like some meaninglessness.
Sovereignty.
A little bit, yeah, where you're trying to figure out how you can be a thing in this world that seemingly doesn't maybe have a point. I mean, one of the major things out of absurdism, like the way I always heard it and the way I love to teach it is this: if God let these things happen to humanity, does he truly exist? And if we are able to do the things as people that we did in World War II, what does that say about humanity?
I mean, fair. However, I almost have this conversation with myself daily.
Ethan, you weren't convinced to go kill an entire race of people on the daily, were you?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean like the question of God.
Well, yeah, okay, that's fine.
I
But I think more to the point of the story today
yeah.
is we're not necessarily searching for an external source like they were in Waiting for Godot, something to give this life meaning, and it never shows up, right? Today we're going to talk about how can humanity be so sucked into doing things that seem counterintuitive to the survival of humanity.
So what you're saying is we're going to the Tesla treatment.
love seeing so many of those out there knowing that they're just pieces of junk. Anyway, okay.
Like, even here, like, where are you gonna take that?
Down the street to the Martin. I don't know. We were just at dinner talking, and somebody saw a Cybertruck pulling a trailer, and I'm like,
where are you going?
Yeah, exactly. With your towing capacity of like maybe 200 pounds, and how far can you get that on one charge? Okay, well, yeah, futility. That's a great place to be. The play we're going to be talking about today is from 1959. Okay, so 15 years after the World War II conflict ended, 15 specifically from the European conflict.
Yeah.
And the play is by a Romanian and French playwright, Eugene Ionesco, called Rhinoceros.
Hold up, give me a sec.
Yeah, having a hard time with that one, huh?
What did those mean?
You'll find out. Act 1 begins in what seems to be contemporary settings to 1959 in a small French town, the name of which is never announced because it doesn't really matter. Two friends, Jean, the French John, Jean and Berenger, have scheduled to meet at a cafe near town square. The two men arrive around the same time, but Jean scolds his friend Berenger for being late. Berenger tries to defend himself, but Jean points out that he arrived, quote, on time, as he feels his time is not to be wasted. So he showed up late as he assumed Berenger would show up, so he could actually be right on time. So it's like if one of your friends was constantly late, you're like, okay, we're going to meet at 11 o'clock, and you get there at 11:30. He shows up right on time at 11:30.
Wait a minute. You're right, but you're wrong at the same time.
Yeah, it's not very nice, but at the same time, if the friend can't be relied upon to be there on time, anyway. So Jean then criticizes his friend Berenger for his shabby appearance, in stark contrast to Jean's very neat and well-kept appearance. Jean soon reveals that Berenger is struggling with alcohol addiction, and that is ruining a lot of the aspects of his life.
I wonder how you could tell.
Yeah, right? No, you'll see here in just a second. Berenger doesn't put up much of a defense, but then again, Jean makes a pretty good case. Berenger's clothes in this scene are all disheveled and wrinkled. His hair is in disarray. You can smell alcohol in his breath, and he has dust on his shoulders from leaning against buildings.
Wow. And I thought I was disappointing.
You're never disappointing. All right. Now, soon, a waitress comes out to take their order, but as she does, a deep rumbling sound grows louder and louder.
Oh, God, Godzilla.
Close. To the point where no one can hear one another. John stands and, off stage, sees a full-grown rhinoceros thundering through the town.
Oh, so that's where it fits in.
Yeah. Now, are rhinoceroses native to France?
No.
Okay. So it's unusual. This greatly upsets everyone, with the exception of Berenger, who doesn't even seem to be bothered. Soon, the rumbling dies down as the rhinoceros runs away, but everybody's caterwauling and screaming, "Oh my God!" Oh, ah! Jean feels that the city council ought to do something about the rampant rhinoceros and can't understand why Berenger is not more disturbed by the event. He then begins to criticize Berenger for his apparent apathy and tries to inspire him to increase his willpower. Now, Ethan, I'm going to take a stop right now. Is that what you would do if a rhinoceros ran right past our house?
No.
You'd look at me and go, "Dad, you need to take more initiative."
Nah, you need the Green Lantern power.
You need the Green Lantern power to go do what?
Something.
Stop the rhino, maybe?
Who's crazy enough to do that?
But that's my point. Rhino goes by, everybody goes, "Ah!" And he turns to his friend and goes, "How did that not bother you? You need to take more initiative in your life."
Now, there's one problem, however, there's no solution.
Yep, right. But they're not thinking about that solution. They're not thinking about the problem even. They just know that now there's a rhinoceros. Wow, that happened.
And then you brush it off.
Right, exactly.
Because what else are you going to do?
So, Jean shows Berenger that he does have reason to live and take more initiative in his life, in the form of the young woman who works in Berenger's office, and her name is Daisy. She has recently passed by after this whole rhino event, and Berenger hid under the table so she wouldn't see him in his current state. So he likes her, but he doesn't want her to see him all Messy. But Berenger is concerned that she is more enamored with another of their colleagues at the office, a man named Dudard. Yep, that's his name.
As if that's an attractive name.
I know. A man named Dudard who apparently has more education and prospects for success. At the same time as this conversation between Jean and Berenger, an old man and his friend, a logician, a guy who basically studies the art of logic.
Now that just don't make sense.
I mean, it was a time where people were really doing that. Like, you think about ancient Greece and you have a lot of philosophers, right? So they're trying to figure out the meaning of life. Well, logic is still a pretty popular thing. And so you've got this guy who's trying to logically reason his way through the world. You don't know his name. You just know he's a logician. That's in fact how he's described in the cast listing. I played logician.
And?
Okay, yeah. So these two have been in the scene earlier and as some apparent passersby, but now they seem to have a little bit more substance in this world. They're having a conversation about the merits of logic. The logician demonstrates this by teaching the old man about syllogisms. Have you ever heard of syllogisms?
No.
Okay. A syllogism can be basically summed up as a logical conclusion that only requires two pieces of evidence to reach. Here's his example. The cat has 4 paws. Isidore and Fricot have 4 paws. Therefore, Isidore and Fricot are cats.
What?
Yeah, see? It's a reasonable conclusion because you know those two pieces of evidence. Therefore, you get to a conclusion.
So technically, I'm a monkey?
Well, we haven't talked about monkeys yet. Do you have paws?
I have hands.
Okay, so you're not a cat.
Yeah?
See?
But monkey
Even if you had 2 paws, then you're still not a cat. You would have to have 4 paws to be a cat.
That's fair.
Okay, now, the old man responds, my dog has 4 paws. The logician replies, then it's a cat.
And a cat is a dog, and a dog is a cat, and
Mm-hmm. The old man soon says, logic is a beautiful thing. To which the logician replies, as long as it's not abused. For the next several minutes, while the logician and the old man practice logic, here's another example. All cats die. Socrates is dead. Therefore,
Socrates is a cat.
Correct. Now, the
Oh,
logician does say it's interesting. Yes, you can reach that conclusion, but the opposite is also true. And you're like, what? Okay, good. I'm glad you have things figured out. Now, while these two men are chatting, John is doing his best to convince Berenger of ways he can make himself more present in his own life and stop wasting it. Oftentimes, the same lines and words are used in each conversation.
my Socrates went outside.
Outside it is raining. Therefore, it's raining on Socrates. Always. And he's dead and he's a cat. Now, in essence, it's a bit of a signal to the audience from the playwright that logic cannot prepare these characters for what's about to transpire through the rest of the play.
Huh.
Uh-huh. Okay. So we're seeing like, okay, these guys don't have any idea what's going on or what might happen to them in the future. Soon after, the rumbling occurs again, and a rhinoceros runs past them off stage, and the noise dies down again.
No, James, get out of the way.
Now, what would you do in that event? What's the biggest problem facing these characters right now?
The rhinoceros?
There's a rhinoceros running rampant through a small town.
Yeah.
And we've heard about them. Rhinoceros, they're not gentle creatures.
How'd you figure that out?
They can probably do some damage. Okay. Here's what they do. Jean and Berenger get into an argument about whether it was the same rhinoceros that was seen earlier or another. Jean swears that the rhino they just saw had 2 horns, and the one that they saw earlier had 1. Berenger says there's no way. After some arguing about whether or not they saw the same rhino twice or 2 different rhinos one time each, and what type of rhinos they are, Jean storms off angrily, calling his friend a drunk.
Technically, all rhinos have 2 horns.
Ah, are you being okay? All right. So, are we using some logic? We're trying to make a syllogism. Rhinos have 2 horns, but so do bulls. Therefore, all rhinos are bulls.
Well, they're related. Are they related?
Oh, check this out. You love this. Also, earlier in the act, a snooty old woman carrying her pet cat in a basket of goods comes back after the second rhino incident. We met this lady earlier. You're in a little bit of a town square here, and there's a grocer, and the grocer's wife sees this lady and calls her out. It's the first line of the play. She's like, she's too snooty to buy our groceries anymore. And this lady is always carrying a cat. The logician, the old man, they bug her for some attention, and she goes off. Now, after the second rhino sighting, this woman comes back and brings her cat, which has been flattened by the rhino.
Ah, yes. Bon appetit.
In the beginning, it's this cat that's just like on her chest and like snuggled up against her neck. So, it's a prop, obviously. But she comes back and it's as flat as a tennis racket. It's like a tennis racket. She's holding it by the tail and its legs are sticking out and it's just fur. And she's caterwauling the whole time. Oh my God!
As it's still meowing.
No, it's dead. It's flat dead. Flat dead. Oh. So she laments this for quite a while, as do some of the other characters, but they eventually try to help the woman grieve and move on because the cat will not be resuscitated. Thinking of that Monty Python sketch where they throw it across the room into a bucket of water. I love that one. She flies across the studio. Oh, how'd she do that? Oh, I fling her. Oh, God. Okay, so now that Jean, who is seemingly actually the most put together of anyone we've met so far, after he's left, the remaining spectators then ask the logician to explain the ordeal with the rhinoceros. Whether there were 2 rhinos, and the region from which both one-horned and two-horned rhinos come from.
Oh, I wonder where.
Now, you'll be surprised to hear this. The logician rambles for quite a while, and everyone hangs on his every word until he can't actually reach any conclusion and leaves.
What?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So they ask the guy who says he knows a lot about logic, tell us what's going on. We have questions that need answering. And he, well, I don't know. And bye. The remaining townsfolk vow to stop the rhinos and all go their separate ways, leaving Berenger alone. He recounts how badly he feels about how things just went with Jean, and he plans to visit him tomorrow to make amends. He also decides that he's too upset and distracted to start improving himself today. Maybe he'll just spend the night drinking.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's the end of Act 1. There are 3 acts. What do you think so far?
Why?
Yes, precisely. Okay. The next act starts in the office where Berenger works. Here we meet his co-workers. Daisy, who Berenger is infatuated with. We've already met her. Dudard, who Berenger believes is his main romantic rival for Daisy's affections.
Oh, I wonder how.
Yeah. We also meet Botard and the office manager, Mr. Papillon. Now, do you know what papillon means in French? Butterfly. Now, the news of this rhino phenomenon is spreading quickly. It's in papers already, and that's all people are talking about in the office.
Aren't they concerned of where it is?
No. Botard refuses to believe that it's happening, suggesting that everyone in their small town is suffering from a, quote, collective psychosis.
So it's a hive mind.
It's a hive mind, and we're all seeing things, and obviously this couldn't possibly be happening.
The Matrix.
He's there telling everybody they're in the Matrix. No, rhinos aren't real.
Not anymore.
If you take the red pill, you will not see any rhinos.
If you take the yellow pill, you get to go back home.
Oh, I want the rhinos. Okay. Berenger soon arrives to work late, but Daisy covers for him and fills out his time card so that it looks like he's there on time. Isn't that sweet? The co-workers then find out what Berenger knows about the rhino event, and he shares that he may have seen 1 or 2 rhinos and that he knows at least one of them trampled a cat.
Wow.
Right? So that's information they didn't have. Okay. At that point, they all get to work, but wonder where their other co-worker, Mr. Boeuf, might be. French. Do you know what boeuf is?
Flat.
Beef. He's Mr. Beef.
Aw.
Soon after, Mrs. Booth hurries into the office to announce that her husband is sick and will be out for a few days. But that's not the most important part. Mrs. Booth rushed in because she says she was chased into the building by a rampaging rhinoceros. And all of the office mates look out the windows and down the staircase to their office, and sure enough, there's a rhino trying to get in the building. He even tries to get up the wooden staircase, but it crushes under his weight. So now they're stuck up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, there's no logical reason.
Logic?
Well, there's no reason that you can get down there.
Well, let's see. Staircases are made of wood. Rhinos crush wood. Therefore, we have no staircase. That's a terrible syllogism. Okay. I'd be bad at this logic game. Mrs. Booth then gets a good look at the rhino from a safe vantage point and actually recognizes the rhino is her husband. Mr. Booth has transformed into a rhinoceros. So now that she has this revelation that her husband, the love of her life, the man she plans to spend the rest of her life with, has transformed into a rhinoceros, the men in the office all try to help Mrs. Booth understand that she has reason to leave her husband now and put her affairs in order.
This isn't a cartoon, but this is starting to get
Yeah.
loony.
Yeah. Not, what are we going to do now that your husband's a rhinoceros? Oh my God. And he's trying to get in here, and God knows what.
Beats me.
But Mrs. Booth is too dedicated to her husband, Rhinoceros, that she leaps out of the window and lands on Mr. Booth's back. And the happy couple rides off into the sunset.
End scene.
No, it's not.
Aw.
Soon, a fire brigade comes with ladders to help all of the office mates escape outside a window. Botard vows that he's going to stop this rhino nonsense. And since there's no longer a staircase for them to use as an exit, they all climb down the ladders that the fire brigade brings. Berenger then decides to go visit Jean and set things right. That's the first half of Act 2.
Intermission.
Yep. Well, actually, that's where most people put the intermission in this play. We're used to a first half and a second half and an intermission in the middle, right?
Yes.
So a long time ago, it was about 100 years ago, a lot of plays used to be 3 acts and you get 2 intermissions. Cool. I don't know. People don't like that anymore.
That would still be okay.
Yeah, you go pee twice. So at Jean's place, Berenger rings the doorbell for several moments until a very sick Jean comes to the door. I see the gears turning in your head right now. What do you think's going on?
Oh, he's turning into a rhino.
Maybe. We'll find out.
Because Mr. Beef.
Mr. Beef. Mr. Beef was sick, and now Mr. Beef is a rhino. If you get sick, you turn into a rhino. Hey, you're getting good at this logic stuff.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Logic is beautiful.
As long as it's not abused. All right. Jean's voice is very hoarse. His skin appears to be turning green and gray more and more as time goes on, and he seems to have no memories about the rhino incidents from the town square.
Hey, are you okay? Nay.
In fact, when Berenger tells Jean about Mr. Booth, Jean actually applauds, and the once very level-headed Jean starts spouting off about how the only way to live anymore is by obeying the calls of nature. Doing so, Jean also denounces the principles of humanism, more or less contradicting almost everything we've come to know about him. Now, have you heard of humanism? It's like putting the priorities of humanity first. The best way I can describe it is like in medieval times, humanism really didn't exist because everybody was trying to secure a good afterlife, right? Or at least in Europe anyway. They were trying to live a good life so they would go to heaven, right? Well, when the Renaissance comes around, they're going, hey, wait, we can actually do things while we're still here. And this is when you get amazing painting and amazing writing and amazing architecture. And that's the Renaissance, right? So humanism had a big part to play in that. But now here we are in 1959. A guy is apparently turning into a rhino and he thinks it's better to just live out in nature.
I wonder where he got that idea.
Oh. Throughout the scene, Jean's voice gets deeper and growls and sniffs angrily at Berenger more and more. He trumpets like a rhinoceros. He disappears to the bathroom and returns several times through the scene, each time more and more resembling a rhinoceros. Like each time he goes in, he puts on a different appendix and like a little horn starts growing in the middle of his forehead.
What is that book series called?
Which one?
The one where like those people can like turn into like
Oh my god, Animorphs!
Guys, I swear I can control it. I can control it.
Eugene Ionesco goes, I have this great idea for a young adult series from about 60 years from now. And it will have no philosophy or meaning. Oh my god. Okay.
See, I'm not wrong.
Berenger runs after Jean into the bathroom at one point, and we hear the noise of a rhino attack. It's just big, loud slamming and everything, like the rhino is crashing into walls and stuff. Berenger returns and slams the door of the bathroom, crying out that his friend has completed the metamorphosis, at which point a full rhino horn bursts through the door above his head.
Huh.
Subtle. Berenger calls for help in the apartment building, but he soon realizes that all of the tenants in the building are now rhinos.
What?
It's spreading quickly, apparently. In terror, Berenger flees the scene, running down the street, screaming,
Rhinoceros!
let me try that again. Rhinoceros! Okay. That's the end of Act 2.
No, like he coughs. Like he's sick.
Oh, no. Oh! Oh, no. Like a big cliffhanger to Act 3, huh? So, as you can see from the syllogistic reasoning of the logician, if someone gets sick, they seem to become rhinoceroses. Act 3 actually delves into the ideas of whether or not this change is voluntary or even natural, but once we cover the synopsis, Ethan and I dive into the history behind the play, which many of you might have seen coming if you put the play into context of post-World War II Europe. You'll see in a moment. But while we're stopped, I encourage you to get out there and rate or review the show wherever you're listening. Really helps me figure out what's working, and it actually helps grow the show quite a bit. So now, let's get back to my son Ethan and the rest of this episode, Play Spotlight Rhinoceros. Well, Act 3 opens in Berenger's apartment, and we see him in a real state, like he is shook up. Obviously, his best friend just turned into a rhino and tried to kill him.
Oh no!
He wakes up from a bad dream.
You were the chosen.
You were the chosen one! Okay, so we're in Berenger's apartment. He's in a bad state. He wakes up from a bad dream. We see that he's got an enormous bandage wrapped around his head. I think he's trying to prevent it. He struggles to avoid drinking, but can't prevent himself. Soon, Dudard comes to visit. Remember him? He's the one that he thought Daisy might like more at the office?
Yeah.
So Dudard comes to visit, and the two try to reason with what's happening. They come to a conclusion that a sickness they call rhinoceritis must be affecting everyone, and it's now reaching epidemic levels.
No.
Yeah, right? There's a thing called COVID, and a lot of the country went, Oh,
now everyone's rhinos. What the hell?
Okay, so Berenger reasons that, well, alcohol might be an immunization, and so he continues to drink. Dudard then lets Berenger know that their boss, Mr. Papillon, has also transformed into a rhino.
Free money!
Free money! Vacation! This leads Dudard to assume that the change must be involuntary, as someone with the high social standing of Mr. Papillon wouldn't choose to change into a rhino.
Haven't they already figured this out?
Do we know that it's not like a choice? Do we know that there might have been just some guy go, hell yeah, I want to be a rhino? And just go, ooh, horn grows out of his head and he goes lumbering off and slams into cars on the street? You don't know. You can't prove it.
What if it just made like this horrific sound? Just.
Oh yeah, like a good like werewolf changing scene in a movie. I actually looked it up. Like, I as I was researching this, I was going, I wonder what a rhino trumpet sounds like. They do not sound like anything you'd think. Yes, there's some like low grunts and stuff, but then they're like, yeah. Like, okay.
Okay, cow.
Maybe that's why we don't know about it, because it's embarrassing. So, like I said, Dudard's saying that Mr. Papillon wouldn't change out of his own volition, so it must be involuntary. This, we're thinking it's a sickness. It's obviously not something that they choose to do. Now, be that as it may, Dudard still thinks that the change is a natural function, but Berenger refuses to agree with that. Berenger says he's going to go out and find the logician. Remember him from the beginning? We're going to see if he can solve everything. Rushing to the window, he sees a pack of rhinos rush past, and one of them has the logician's hat on his head. The logician has not been able to prevent becoming a rhino. You're stunned.
Oh my god!
Oh god.
My entire family's gone!
Everybody I know is becoming a rhino.
I guess I'll just drink away my pride.
There it is. Yep. Soon after, Daisy shows up at Berenger's with a picnic basket full of stuff. What do you mean by that? Okay, never mind.
Coughing as it.
Yeah, she comes in. Excuse me. She informs everyone that Botard, who vowed to solve the rhino problem, has changed into a rhino. You're like, okay, yeah, like shock me at some point. Dudard is a little jealous that Daisy has come to Berenger's to pay him some special attention, but Dudard and Daisy both conclude that there is no use resisting the rhino phenomenon, and that the only way forward is just to get acclimated to the onslaught of the rhinos. Berenger disagrees. I mean, honestly, let's say this is happening over like a day and a half. Okay, here you and I are hanging out in our house, and tomorrow morning, rhinos everywhere. And then Tuesday, rhinos all over. And we're the only ones left. What do we do? Go fight the rhinos?
I just like imagine like a rhino newscaster just like covering the.
Okay. The three sit down to eat, but are soon surprised by the sound of a wall crumbling outside. They rush to a window to see that the fire department has now been overtaken by the rhinos, so there will be no official state office that can now save them in the event of an emergency.
Oh wait, I just realized what this is.
What's that?
Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes, except they're quadrupeds. Okay. Dudard then declares that he doesn't want to wait for the inevitable and goes out to face his fate in the new world full of rhinos. Just, if it's going to happen to me, it's going to happen. I don't want to wait for it. Let's see what happens.
Okay, Walking Dead.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That's a great analogy. Eventually the zombies will get me anyway. Rip my throat out.
If I'm going out, I'm chainsawing.
Now, Berenger and Daisy feel bad about Dudard's eventual death or change, and Berenger vows to protect Daisy. He also expresses some guilt about the changes of Jean and Mr. Papillon, as he feels he might have been able to do something about it, but now that it's happened, like, how can you go back and prevent it?
Just Daisy over here.
Yeah, no, something itches. But Daisy reprimands Berenger, saying that the two of them have no right meddling about in anyone else's lives, and that people should be allowed to run their own lives. Hey, if he's gonna be a rhino, he's gonna be a rhino. You just let him do that. He has the right to.
Let him run his life, literally.
Because now he's on all fours. I get it. Soon, the phone rings. But after some reluctance, Berenger picks it up, only to hear, yes, the trumpeting of rhinos on the other end. Daisy then rips the phone line out of the wall. Berenger suggests that they watch TV to see if there are any updates, but rhinos have taken over the TV studio, just like you just said.
It's like in a suit guy. Now
Weather.
Sports.
It's all charging. In the apartment building, rhinos upstairs have started to trample around, causing the building to quiver and become unstable. And throughout the third act, the whole time, the trumpeting of the rhinos outside becomes more melodic and attractive. Yeah, no, the version I watched, it actually started to become kind of like jazz a little bit, and it started to sound less like a trumpet blaring or a saxophone going really loud, but it started to make music together. You know, like,
You like jazz?
You like jazz? Daisy suggests that they'll just need to get used to their new neighbors, finding their noise and power more and more attractive. So she's liking the sound of the trumpeting. Berenger vows to never change, realizing that under his head bandage, no rhino horn has been growing.
Oh, so the solution was alcohol.
It might have been. No. This is interesting. He suggests to Daisy that they begin to repopulate the earth with people, just like Adam and Eve. Yeah, it's our duty. Come to bed. But she is quite seduced by the noise of the rhinos and tries to leave to join them. Berenger strikes her on the face to get her to snap out of it, but apologizes immediately. Still, they can't agree on whether the rhino sounds are ugly or attractive, and Daisy breaks up with Berenger right there and leaves to join the rhinos.
Well, find a way to evolve asexually.
Yeah. You must now split yourself in twain.
Become a single-celled organ.
Do that and then split. Yeah, you just develop mitosis. It'll be fine.
Yep.
We are left with Berenger alone in his apartment as the trumpeting of the rhinos outside grows louder and louder. But Berenger will not submit. The play ends with Berenger shouting, "If I'm the last man left, I'm staying that way until the end. I'm not capitulating." End of play.
Huh.
So what do you think about that?
Worthless.
Now, I'm going to help you understand that because as I was watching it, I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And it's all done through theater, so you don't really understand exactly what he's getting at. But I suppose it might help to put the play into a little bit more perspective. Okay? Now that I've told you all that, you're like, this is nonsense. And I get it. I see where you're coming from. Now, we've talked a bit about the idea that a work of art is the artist's reaction to the world and the things going on in the world at a particular time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that classic phrase, is life reflecting art or is art reflecting life? In this case, I would suggest that Ionesco was trying to warn people against following regimes just because they are growing in popularity or power.
Oh.
Okay. Now put your big brain on this. Here we go. I'm going to give you two incredibly popular brands and tell me if you follow along or not. You ready? What's your take on Fortnite right now?
Absolute garbage. It should be burned in a pit. It is a disgrace to humanity, and whoever touches the game, they are never getting women.
Yeah! But it's incredibly popular. You can't deny that.
Yeah, but, like, it's not good.
Okay.
I would say the game gets really repetitive.
Yeah.
Some people, I bet some people in the, like, viewer section is just going to be, like, hating on me for
some listener out there is going, well, then I'm never listening to this show again if they don't endorse Fortnite.
Okay.
All right.
Put on your nerd glasses again.
You ready for your next one?
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, we're opening that can of beans.
Okay.
I have undying hate.
Whoa! Wow. Okay. Tell me where that comes from then.
It just sounds bad.
You don't like the music?
No.
Okay.
I mean, also, everyone cares about one person.
Yeah.
Like, sure, she dated a football player.
Still,
that's not my problem.
But, I mean, you got to look at it, though. I mean, that Eras tour went all over the world. You couldn't do it anywhere that wasn't a football stadium. It was huge. So, okay, a football stadium usually seats like 50 to 70,000 people and filled those arenas every place it went.
I'm pretty sure she was actually showed on screen more than the actual football game.
I think you're right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's an incredibly popular thing, and you have all these people now who have the little friendship bracelets, and they spent all the money, and they've listened to all the tunes, and now they are Swifties, right?
Yeah.
You didn't get swayed.
I didn't get swayed
Okay.
because it's terrible.
Now, those are just movements in entertainment that I use as an example, but that have gotten quite a following. Can you think of any times in history when a movement infiltrated virtually every part of society, from art to politics to philosophy, etc.?
Independence?
Oh, like American independence?
Yes.
Okay, because you still had people here who were loyalists to the crown,
Yeah.
but not everybody.
Not everyone.
But we still started a movement.
Yep.
I was thinking more closer to World War II.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me guess. It starts with an N and with an I.
So yeah, UNESCO was witness to such a time in his lifetime.
Yeah, I was like, I bet you're hinting to that, but I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, after World War I ended, Romania actually got this influx of new residents from all sorts of nationalities and religion, but it didn't really have the governmental infrastructure or economy to manage such a surge. So soon, you have a lot of nationalist factions start to pop up everywhere, and you know nationalism, right? Okay, like there are days when you and I both go, it's kind of questionable to be an American, but at the same time, you're like, you know what? This is where I'm from. This is my home country. I'm down with America.
To be honest, I really don't.
You don't really care. How about the people who are like, ain't nobody should be in this country but Americans? That's nationalism. That's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
it's an absolute devotion to your country, and that only people within your country should benefit from the fruits of the country.
I mean, well, yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, there are, like, it's kind of like the thing to, like, join religions.
Mm.
Like, you have to be baptized to join Christianity.
Yeah, and your parents make that decision for you, so you're welcome.
I still disagree with that.
Okay.
I'm like, sure, you baptized me. Now I just feel wet.
Now I'm wet and cold. Give me a blanket and some milk. Okay. So here's a quote about Ionesco's experience. In Romania, the Depression placed intense economic and political pressures on civil society, and many Romanians found themselves drawn to the Legion of the Archangel Michael, a fascist movement that blended mystical devotion to the Romanian fatherland with anti Semitism and a belief in the redemptive power of violence. The Legion, also known as the Iron Guard, engaged in political assassinations and pogroms and grew to become proportionately the third largest fascist movement in Europe at the time.
So it's just becoming corn. I mean, like Warhammer corn.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what that is, but
He's literally the god of hate. And
oh, okay.
everyone who follows him, they can literally never feel anything except for hate.
Well, and yeah, that's kind of how it felt. I mean, anti-Semitism. I don't know how people get into anti-Semitism. I don't get it. What's wrong with the Jewish faith? I don't get it. Do you get it?
No.
Like, you had friends who were Jewish in school. I knew people who were Jewish. It's like, and it didn't bother me. So what? They have different holidays and different ways. What?
To be honest, I just didn't care.
There you go.
Like, I'm
There
like,
you go.
you're human.
Yeah.
You're human.
There it is. That's it. So, nationalism, grow up. Grow up. Okay? And so, yeah, this nationalist movement also just anything associated with Jewishness, they're like, get it out. And some of the stuff that this Iron Guard did was just awful. I read about how the chief of police was murdered in the town where the Iron Guard's originator, the guy who started the movement, he had attended college in this town and just had a disagreement with the police chief. So somebody in the movement murdered him. Not let's vote him out of office, not let's have an election. Nope, redemptive power of violence. We can take him out with pistols and spears and Molotov cocktails. And
Okay, so this is just turning into red versus blue.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. UNESCO saw the rise of fascism, nationalism, and totalitarianism seduce even the most brilliant scholars. This is a quote from UNESCO. I have been present at mutations. I have seen people transformed almost beneath my eyes. It is as if I had come across the very process of metamorphosis, as if I had been present at it. I felt them becoming more and more strangers. I felt them withdrawing little by little. I felt how another soul, another mind germinated in them. They lost their personality and it was replaced by another. They became other.
The word germinated. Let's think.
Mhm.
What is in that word?
Germany. Okay, I can fine. But no, I mean, okay. I mean, I'm gonna go back. Like, you have your friends. You guys play a certain few video games, and what if one of them was like, "No, guys, we're gonna start Fortnite now."
Sacrilege, you are heresy.
Well, then, what if now all of the people around that person are like, "Hey, we're all playing Fortnite. You should play Fortnite."
Nah.
You're not doing it.
I did it once. I'm going to admit I did it once. I spent like $120 on
Whoa.
skins.
Yeah.
And that was over the course of 2 years.
Yeah. You were a little guy though then.
I was like 6 to
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
But-
was all worthless.
But see, this is what UNESCO is saying. He's watching his friends, the people he knows, the intellectual people around him that he admires. Like, I'll go into it here a little bit. In later interviews, he would often speak about the different ways in which people would be taken in by fascist regimes. Some would be overwhelmed by the quick rise to power. Okay? So, you listen to Chapel Roan now, don't you?
Sometimes.
But a lot of people did really fast. All right. And I'm like, you all have a working knowledge of the discography of Chapel Roan? And apparently people do. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. She's an artist. She's making some great music. Okay? She's not making music about kill all the Jews. It's not happening.
I imagine that'd just be like a march. Just like
Mhm.
there's like a tire iron and like percussion instruments. Just
Now, for example, UNESCO recalls some of the most intellectual people he remembers saying things like, quote, I don't agree with the Iron Guard to be sure, but on certain points, nevertheless, I must admit, for example, the Jews, ... And UNESCO says, and then the person would become a Nazi.
Ugh.
I mean, it's just taking one thing and justifying it and saying that now everything else that happens there is okay. I wonder who that sounds like. Anyway, as you may recall from history, Romania was one of the first countries to join Nazi Germany and the Axis powers.
Yes.
Right
it
away.
was.
Yep.
They're
In
just
19
like we're too small.
we're too small and we kind of like all this Jew hating stuff. Let's join forces.
They were actually trying to sabotage during the entire thing.
Well, Romania was?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Because they were just like, wait, if we get on their good side,
maybe we can take the whole ship over. Ooh.
I'm pretty sure that's how most of them were.
Might have been.
I mean, otherwise they were just bad people.
Okay, now in 1940, UNESCO wrote some understated remarks about the authorities in society each becoming a rhinoceros, such as the police and justice systems, as though the transformation was unprecedented and turned a human into something that did not resemble humanity at all. But throughout the war, UNESCO was doing his best to remain out of the conflict and not get swallowed up by the shadow growing over Romania. He was able to find several jobs writing throughout the 1940s, sometimes doing so in near poverty, including being a press secretary for the Roman military in Vichy, France. So that's how he got back to France, which did get his family out of Romania during the war. It's a good move on him.
Ooh.
I mean, France did eventually get invaded and taken over, but he wasn't right in the boiling cauldron of it, right? So sometime after the war, he was able to get his French citizenship. He published his first play in 1950, but in 1959, he got Rhinoceros out there, remembering the words he'd written almost 20 years before. More than anything, with his play Rhinoceros, Ionesco is reminding us just how easy it is to be swept up in a totalitarian movement, cautions viewers about the many ways people can get sucked into one, and champions the concept of individuality as totalitarian regimes thrive on the destruction of individualism. Which is why at the end he says, I'm not capitulating. Which is why I say, Ethan, why don't you play Fortnite? You
No.
go, hell no.
No.
Okay.
I will not play that game if I'm like strapped to an electric chair.
Okay. If there are the producers of Fortnite out there listening, these are the statements of Ethan Odom, and if you're planning on sponsoring, then I would appreciate it.
Don't!
Now, here's a quote from Ionesco about the importance of maintaining individualism. We will never understand totalitarianism if we do not understand that people rarely have the strength to be uncommon.
Accurate.
Let your freak flag fly, man. Be the weirdo that you are, and individualism will beat totalitarianism.
To be honest, I like almost every day I get criticized about one thing about me.
Right.
And I'm like, too bad.
Yeah.
That's what makes me better than you.
Yeah. We all do. We all do. People looking at people like, I wouldn't have worn those stockings. Like, who cares? That's what that person wanted to do. Live and let live.
I mean, like, there are some times where I think, like, when people dress, like, really weirdly, I think that's really cool. And I'm like,
do what you want.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that, and it works on you.
Yes.
Or it might not. But
I mean,
even if it doesn't, whatever.
Like, I saw someone with, like goth clothing.
Okay.
However, they were wearing, like, those, like, rainbow fur 80s, like,
Oh,
stock.
yeah. Okay. I mean, I've seen that.
Like, it was, like, big. Mm-hmm. It was, like, really big.
Yeah. So upon completing the first performance of Rhinoceros in Dusseldorf, Germany in 1959, the play received a 10-minute standing ovation. And quickly moved to markets in Paris, London, and New York. Today, Rhinoceros is still somewhat touted as one of the best absurdist plays of all time. Ionesco never felt it was entirely absurdist because he felt that it always had a strong allegorical message.
Yeah. Felt it, like, in, like, the first 2/3 of the second act.
You're like, what is going on? Why is everybody's turning? We can't decide why people are turning, and then they just become this thing? And I tried to look it up. I couldn't figure out why specifically Ionesco chose a rhinoceros. And the only thing I could think was it's this big, powerful thing that charges. I don't think they're like really well known for their intelligence.
Idiocy.
Okay. And they're about as far looking from a human in the animal world as you could get. And they're land-based, it's not an octopus or something like that. That's pretty far from human. But yeah, that's the spotlight on Rhinoceros, Ethan. What do you think?
I mean, it makes sense how it doesn't make sense.
Right. Like we talk about it in the very beginning of the play, how a rhinoceros storms through town. That would be like in our town, a rhinoceros going down Grinnell Plaza and going through Kendrick Park, and everybody going, "A rhino!" And then once a rhino went, they went, "That was weird."
And they don't, and they don't expound on that.
They don't do more than that. They don't go, "What the heck? We need to fix this rhino problem like immediately." Yep. And then the second time it comes around, they debate on whether it had two horns or one and where it came from. Is it Asiatic or Adriatic? That African, that's it.
I mean, like, if you put it into the sense of where it's actually coming from, that makes total sense. Yeah. However, like, I would think that by the second person, the second rhino, like, I would think that when other people thought that, like, a rhino was pretty cool.
Right. As soon as they started, yes, exactly. That's kind of what Daisy did.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Dudard did. Jean, as soon as he started getting sick, he's like, I think being a rhino is pretty cool.
Yeah. Still, and like, they take pride in that. However, they don't realize that they aren't themselves.
Right.
Like, they're so focused on some horrible thing
Mm-hmm.
that they don't fix themselves first.
Then realize they've lost their individuality.
Yeah, they don't realize that they lost consciousness.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Like, there's a book out there named Mouse.
Yeah.
That's a Nazi story.
Pretty great allegory for the Holocaust.
And it's a I've only read the first part.
Mm-hmm.
Never read the second, but I kind of wanna.
Yeah.
However, like, I see how that works.
Yeah.
And it illustrates that, and like, people are terrified when a lot of them come
Mhm.
through.
And
Like,
it was published a lot closer to modern day. It wasn't
Yeah.
1959. 1959, only 15 years had gone by. Mouse, a lot of time has gone by, but I think we still need to be reminded every now and then, hey, let's not have another one of these holocausts. Sound good?
yes,
You can compare it to today, to the conflict over in Israel and Palestine right now. And
is the war of Russia and Ukraine done yet?
no.
I thought that ended like last year or something.
No, heck no. They're still going. They're still going.
I'm surprised that Russia just hasn't given up at this point. Like, I'm just like, you've wasted about $100 million at this point.
Mhm.
Just stop.
God, you really are trying to get me killed on the show, aren't you? I'm gonna have somebody tapping on my window. I like your show. Can I sit down for interview with you, just you and me? Yeah. No, I mean, it seems to be something with humanity that we just seem to be taken in by things that are doing awful things, but there's like just maybe one or two things that's okay about it. And we're like, we're going to go out and we're going to burn the houses down of any people that don't have red hair or that do have red hair.
Okay,
And
gingers.
right, and
You better watch out.
right, and we're going to steal their clothing and any good stuff that they have. But hey, when we're done, free ice cream. And it's that free ice cream that goes, and it's that
snow cone
Yep.
at the end of the game.
That's right. And it's that free snow cone that makes people go, you know, I could go into some gingers' houses and take some stuff apart. No problem. I tell you what, I'm not listening to Taylor Swift though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Like,
Okay.
like, to be completely honest, the new meme stuff,
Mhm.
I and like everyone else calls it brain rot.
Yeah.
And I treat it as a virus.
Ooh.
Because, like, you can't really be cured. You can only dampen it.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of like The Last of Us.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeesh.
You can't prevent it, but you can slow it down.
You can slow it down or maybe, just divert it.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, that was a fun talk. So, you want to go play some Fortnite?
No!
Well, you Mennonites, I regret to inform you that the world is now peopled with rhinos, or at least in the world of Ionesco's play. And did you see some of the moments when the light bulb came on for Ethan? I guess I'm pleased about that, but there is still lingering disappointment that humanity seems to need constant reminders like this in order to maintain human. But, alas, I suppose that's just another function of theater. And I want to thank Ethan for his contributions to this episode, and I want to thank you for your loyal listening, for the next few episodes are going to be fantastic. But for now, I'll sign off. This has been another episode of Euripides Eumenides. I have been your host, Aaron Odom. Another episode will be in your ears in 2 weeks, and I will see you at intermission.